Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. We are here for our Prasada Talks today. We have been deep diving into the topic of overwhelm. This particular program is called Navigating the Overwhelm Spiral. And you guys probably know how much I love pictures. So I always have either a metaphor or a vision. And so the overwhelm spiral to me is that sensation of Alice falling down the rabbit hole. So when
Mhm.
we were looking at this topic, that really resonated with me. So I am here to interview, learn from the wise Jared Madison. He's Prasada's new business partner. He was an attorney for many years. I'll let you share with everybody your background. And so we just really be able to deconstruct this, what we call the spiral of overwhelm, kind of the different stages, and then how can we work with that? So Jared, what's your story? What's your background?
Yeah, I don't have a famous name like you to have this imagery of falling down the rabbit hole. There's not a lot of Jareds out there, especially if you spell it like me. But here we are. New partner at Prasada, joined this year, and prior to that, was a commercial real estate lawyer for 20 years and often felt overwhelmed. And not to say I don't feel overwhelmed now. We all feel overwhelmed. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today isn't about like shielding yourself from ever feeling overwhelmed, but it's more about how you respond to the overwhelm. Can you build resilience and learn to notice the patterns and signals that overwhelm is about to take over, and what can you do about it? So,
Yeah. I was thinking this morning that it's more like we're not trying to find the answer, but it's more like knowing that you're going to have to be going downriver, but knowing that sometimes you actually have to go over to the bank and take a minute, and then you can get back in the stream because the stream is life. That is life, and we'd get very bored very quickly if we were not engaging. So let's start kind of at the top. Like what does overwhelm feel like? What are some of the early signs that we're kind of past that point of excitement and into the spiral?
yeah, so I think I'll just start by saying it can feel different to different people. So I can speak from my personal experience, but a helpful lens to look through is one of my favorite lenses, which is we have three bodies of intelligence. A lot of us are in our minds. We think of intelligence as mental activity, but we also have an intelligence in our body. We have an intelligence in our heart, and so can you discern what's happening in each of those parts of you as overwhelm kicks in? So for me, my body gets tight. I There's this initial sort of surge of energy, a tightness, often in I'll clench my stomach. Things just feel like too much, and it's really my nervous system shifting to a fight or flight mode. And in me, that shows up as tightness, can turn into rigidity. My breathing will get more shallow, and so it's just this like, oh, something's happening. So it's very physical, and that's often the first place I will notice it if I'm really paying attention.
Mm,
Um, but that's just one lens. So the other lens is we have a emotional intelligence, we have a heart center, and the emotion that shows up for me is frustration.
mm,
When I feel overwhelmed, it's because things aren't going as I thought, or I'm not doing a good enough job, or people I'm working with are not pulling their weight, or whatever it is. And so frustration tends to be closely coupled with that body tightness that I can feel.
mm,
And then once that's kicking in, now my mind starts telling me stories about what it's like to be overwhelmed. And so I started thinking things like, there's not enough time. I don't have enough resources to do these things that are being demanded of me. Um, or for me personally, a lot of self-criticism will kick in, or even I might sort of project that outward and start criticizing others, but that's all these different mental stories that kind of kick in. So that's me. So for everyone, something is happening in those three centers, and a lot of the game, if you will, is learning to recognize those early on. Um, so, but how is it for you? How do you experience overwhelm?
Yeah, I love the framework of the three centers of intelligence. I know that's from your Enneagram expertise. Um, so for me in the body, I start feeling like a fast vibration. And I'm a leg shaker. So my leg will start bouncing. And so it's literally like I feel like an animal that's kind of like the stress has gotten in there and I'm trying to like somehow dissipate it.
Yeah,
Um, and then on the heart, it's sort of fear. It's fear that's coming up that like, oh my gosh, I did not prepare for something, or it's my fault, or I could have like just something. And then my mind just it's like spinning. It just feels like it can't get a toehold. And it might be my sort of some of my ADHD that I think I have, but it just is like a pinball machine. Like can't grasp anything. And part of it just feels like the whole system is kind of building. And I think that, you know, that is one of the biggest ways for people to start to discern like what is that first little trigger that's happening. But I know for a long time I didn't even notice those things until until the bad behavior started coming out because of the stress.
yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about, you know, how did you get to a point where you could even attune and then kind of discern what was happening without just ignoring it?
Through practice and paying attention, really, just even being aware that, okay, we operate within these three centers of intelligence and different things might be happening in each of them, and they're all interconnected in a certain way. So so that just general framework sort of helped me have that discernment,
Mm-hmm.
and just really start paying attention to the patterns for me and how that shows up for me. And so if I'm having the critical thoughts, then I'm pretty far down the road. Some people might kind of start there, like little stories start, and that kind of builds and then creates some emotion around that, or and then some body sensation around that. I tend to work from the bottom up.
Yeah.
So it really starts in the body. So once I knew that, just through different mindfulness practices, having the Enneagram framework, and just observing and noticing and trying to do that without judging myself, but just sort of noticing the patterns. Just with practice and over time, you can catch them earlier. But if you don't catch them earlier, it's going to just build, and then it's going to, you know, yell a little louder at you until you start noticing. And so that's okay too. You don't have to catch it early on, but
You
it'll just build up as this sort of pressure over time, and then you might notice it a little bit better. So it's all about just kind of paying attention, staying connected to your body.
so you say that just paying attention and noticing, but you have a history of a lot of years of meditation practice. So
I do.
talk a little bit about kind of what it took for you to get to a point where you could, because a lot of times people think, well, I'm just going to pay attention, but attention, and we just did a program last week where we were talking about being unplugged and kind of what is the pull of our phones and our attention spans. Gen Z's attention span is right now I think 8.9 seconds. So how does can you just talk a little bit about, I know we're not talking about meditation today, but just a little bit about how, you know, meditation do you feel like it helped train you so that you had that ability to pay attention?
For sure. It certainly helped. I don't think it's the only tool that can be helpful.
Yeah.
And it really, there's going to be different things that resonate for different people. And so for a long time, I started meditating 25 years ago, and I've ebbed and flowed of how much I stick with it every day or on any sort of regular routine. these days I love breath work. I love qigong. It's really a way of getting really into my body. And because I did learn, and the meditation probably helped me learn that, hey, oh, there's a lot of stuff going on in my body that I'm not really paying attention to. So having a more physical practice certainly helped. But just really, the breath can bring you, really give you direct access to your nervous system.
Yeah.
And then coupling, I'd love to couple that with movement of the qigong as super light movements, incorporating that with the breathing practice really helps kind of settle, and I'm much more in tune with my body, and so I'll notice way quicker um, when that tightness is coming on because I usually feel quite loose after breathing or doing some qigong, and so if the tightness kicks in, I'll notice it more easily.
Yeah. We've talked about there's sort of 3 degrees of overwhelm in some of the blogs that we've been writing. And we talked about pressure. So you've talked about that, like feeling that tightness, feeling that sort of mental, like squeezing in. And then there's the panic piece. And then the third part is really the paralysis. And so I know yesterday when we were talking, like what does that spiral look like for you? And it's one thing if you can kind of catch it at the beginning. That's the ideal. And that's where, a meditation practice to where you can catch it at the beginning, but oftentimes it happens so quickly. Like we will go from pressure to panic. I know
Yeah,
for me, that can happen really, really quickly. So what is that and you mentioned sort of that rigidity that comes in, like what is that sensation like, and how do we start to, because I find the further we're going down the spiral, the harder it is to grab for the tools.
yeah, or the more dramatic tool that you'll need, perhaps. But yeah, I think even like everything I was describing earlier about how I feel in my body and the emotions that come up, and then the like mental self-talk. At the beginning, it's subtle. It's sort of kicking in that pressure mode. When it's in panic mode, then I'm really in my head at that point. Again, that's for me. Someone might just be overwhelmed with some emotion, and that's panic to them. Um, but yeah, it's just this degree is this building over time, and to me, I'll just really get stuck in my head, and then the that inner critic really kicks in pretty strong at that point for me. Then it feels like I'm in panic mode. Um, like this is urgent, 5 alarms, like this is like not good. How did I let myself get to this place? Why am I the only one that could possibly do this work as so perfectly? Things like that start kicking in for me.
Yeah.
So for me, in addition to having the breath work and qigong practices to kind of get ahead of it, if I'm like here at my desk and that panic is kicking in, I really kind of need to step away. That's another um, tool that I
Yeah.
can just rely on or get into my body in some way.
Yeah, that third part about paralysis, we were talking about just like physically getting stuck. And sometimes that means I think of it almost like a flywheel. Like you're doing a task and you're starting to have panic, but you're thinking like, I can't step away because if I step away, I always think about that skit with Lucille Ball where there were chocolates and she'd like put them in a box and then they stopped, and you just like, I feel like I'm going into that skit. But there can also be the paralysis of just like your brain is sort of stuck spinning. So as you mentioned, I think the key is the stepping away, because even moving our body out of the environment of the machine, which is usually where it's our connection, but it's also causing that. So just stepping away. And so when you step away, what do you do? What are the things that can sort of help once we've realized we are way down at the bottom of that spiral, and it's not getting better.
Yeah, ideally I step away before paralysis because then I'm literally stuck. And paralysis for me is much more emotional. Once I'm at that paralysis stage, it's like my emotions are kind of garbled in the same way that your mind gets garbled. And then I can't really do anything. But so stepping, I mean, going for a walk, literally just let me go get a snack. Let me just go to the bathroom for a minute and like get a glass of water or something. But obviously, working out, I have like a nice workout routine that I've been doing lately, and just that helps get myself into my body, get my body tired, which can help kind of calm the nervous system generally and start getting that negative self-talk to calm down, the emotions to kind of settle. Uh, yeah, so those are just some of the few, but really anything.
Would you share about our stop, drop, and breathe practice? Because this is a go-to one. We've really been um, trying to talk about three breathwork paths. So maybe if you outline the three breathwork paths and then tell us about stop, drop, and breathe.
So the pathways. So we have right. So we have three pathways in our breathwork nomenclature. So there are tools, breathwork tools, and those are kind of what we're talking about now. Like, what are the things that you can just grab from your mindfulness or breathwork toolbox to use in the moment? Because, like, oh, I feel the overwhelm coming on, I feel the pressure building, or I'm in panic mode. So, what is some tool that I can grab to really, in this moment, like, help me settle? And that's going to be a couple minutes of uh, some modality that you'll do. The second pathway is what we call practice. And so that's really whatever your favorite tools are, like combining them in some way that makes sense for you and your schedule, and building it into a routine. And so maybe your routine is 10 minutes every morning, or 20 minutes midday, or a nighttime routine, something that you can start doing on a regular basis to start building resilience more for the long term rather than that sort of urgent in the moment
Mm-hmm.
thing. And then our third pathway is journeys, and those are much deeper inner work experiences. They're these transformational experiences that we offer at our retreats. Um, and soon, in a couple of months, we'll be doing some of these online in a slightly shorter format. But so they can range from like an hour to 3 hours, and it's really meant to go in and identify what are the things that are like when we have all of these moments of overwhelm and we get rigid or whatever it is, like our bodies are gonna hold on to that unless we can process it in some way.
Mm.
And so the journeys help us process that, release that held on block. That's some emotional block. So those are our three pathways. So one tool that can be helpful is the stop, drop, and breathe tool. So we had a breathwork challenge in May. This was our featured tool in our May breathwork challenge. And it's a 3-minute tool. And it's very simple. You stop, you drop, and you breathe. So you stop for a minute. Just take that. Okay, I'm in overwhelm mode. I
Can
can
we
feel the
do it?
pressure.
Will you lead us in it?
Sure.
3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. We've got time.
I'm gonna keep time.
I will keep time.
Okay, let's pretend we're all overwhelmed. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? Did you know, actually, I'm not going to do it now, but there is a little thing in Zoom. You can put like a little timer on the screen. I
Oh,
discovered that in my
we'll have to
uh,
figure out how to do that.
breathwork training. We'll do that next time.
Okay.
Um, so step one, stop. Let's just stop for a minute. Just recognize we're in this state of overwhelm. Just accept it. Notice where you are. I'm standing right now. Can feel my feet on the ground. And just breathe at a normal pace. Nothing to change. And it's really just bringing awareness to the fact that we are standing here breathing. And I'm going to rely on you to tell me when 1 minute has passed.
We've got about 15 more seconds. And the thing about stopping sometimes for me is just putting my feet on the floor because sometimes I'll be sitting in a weird way. I'll have leg underneath me. It's just like bringing my feet to the floor, bringing my hands back, even just putting my hands in my lap. So it's just like really getting, even in that way, can kind of help get grounded. All right, drop.
So minute two, now we're going to drop. What does that mean? We're going to drop into our body. So that may have started happening naturally if you're just observing what's going on. But now really go into like feel the contact of the seat if you're sitting or your feet on the ground. Just notice, You can even take a couple deeper breaths. Notice your stomach going in and out, expanding and contracting. Nice deep breath. Just feel the what's happening when you take a breath. Just settling. To me, there's often like a little energetic wave that kind of flows down, and that I can, if I can feel that, then I know that that's a good sign. I'm kind of settling in.
I always have the image of like I've been in my head and there's a little stairway in my neck. And suddenly I'm like walking down and realizing there's this whole other experience of me that I have
Yeah.
not really been paying attention to.
So regardless of which Enneagram type or whatever, a lot of us are up in our heads. And so this can just help. So it's drop because we're dropping from our minds into our bodies.
Yeah. All right. Minute 3.
Minute 3, breathe. And so we can do a few together. It's just depending on how tight you are, you can exhale out of the mouth, and that can really help release more. But if you're feeling settled, you can go in and out through your nose. So just do a 4 count. We can just inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, then exhale for 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale and exhale. I want to actually do it, so I'm not counting. Inhale. It's deep into your belly. Just let it fill up and then just really just let it go on the exhale. Just kind of, it's a further settling. And inhale and exhale.
All right. That gets us to our 3 minutes.
And you can really play games with that. If you, I just did a easy, you can count it however you want. I just did an easy in for 4, out for 4. You can extend that exhale. That will help you regulate even more. And if you want to really make it into a game, how few breaths can you fit into that final minute? Because the fewer times you breathe, the more you'll actually settle.
Yeah.
So I think we got in like 4, which is probably about typical for 1 minute.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that, we're breathing all the time, but when we don't have an awareness, the breath is, I've lost control of the timer. Um, if we're just on the default breath, that's not going to be the calming breath. And so when we do this breathwork training, what we're actually training, the science of what we're training is we're training our body to know that when we start to go into that, when we get triggered, that our body's going to go into the mode which keeps us having a balanced nervous system. And this is a reason why the military uses breathwork training because they know they're preparing for the high stress intensity moments and that they're building that resilience. And that is both a physical resilience, but then it also becomes a mental resilience. Because if we get caught in the tide of the stress, our mental capacity, we don't have that problem solving capability. So, again, it's one of the reasons why breathwork training is an integral part of resilience training for the military now. And it's why my favorite phrase lately is it's not magic, it's science. But let's talk also about okay, so we all kind of feel like we live on our little island, especially when we go into overwhelm. As you were saying, like, I'm the only person, I've got to do all these things. But uh, the way that life is a group project, which is the good news, and the second good news is we're all here and we're all having our phases of when we're having overwhelm or not overwhelm. But you and I talked yesterday about two different examples of where we are planning for this could happen and what might that be like. And you gave a great example of I think it's this season's Survivor.
Yeah, yeah. It ended a few weeks ago. Um, I won't spoil anything in case anyone's sort of catching up.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter because as soon as the season is over, I never remember any of the contestants' names, even though I'm like totally invested in the season. But anyway, this past season had a woman who was on the autistic spectrum, and quite remarkable. She's very athletic, and very self-aware. And she knew that she needed an ally, just in case the intensity of the overall experience or like any particular challenge that they were doing became overwhelming. She can really spiral in a lot of the ways that we're talking about. So she had great awareness around this. So early on, she confided in one of her tribe mates that she's autistic and she has this tendency to kind of get out of control. And she told him, I just need a hug, or just I need physical contact. I just need someone to know that I'm in that state and that can help ground me and kind of bring me out of it. Fast forward several weeks, they ended up being on different tribes later in the game, and they were participating in a challenge, and it was very overwhelming for her. And she had an episode, and she was really she lost control, and you could see him on the other tribe really like concerned and watching. The challenge ended, and he kind of asked permission to go over to her. He immediately went over to her, hugged her. It was a beautiful, touching moment. But he knew what she needed because she had articulated it to him. And it totally grounded her, settled her system. And because of that, she kind of came out to everybody that she is on the spectrum and this is why. And but it was beautifully touching and super self-aware on her part to know what she needed from someone else to kind of help her through that.
Yeah, that is an amazing story. When you told it to me the first time, I was like, wow. And but that really embraces the idea that like the self-awareness that we have then allows us to communicate with other people so that when we're in those moments, we can reach out and get that care. Um, Example that you and I were talking about that I shared yesterday was we were working with a social service agency that's in the city. And when we got there, we noticed something felt different about this place, and they all were wearing lanyards around their neck with a little card. And so they explained to us that in the model that they were using, it's called the sanctuary model. Knowing that social workers a lot of times have had their own history of sort of difficulty and trauma, that this was their emergency plan. So on the card, knowing that they might be working with a family and something might not go well, or they might not get the resources they need or something, when they got triggered, what would they do? And so they had a list of, I will take 3 deep breaths. I will call my partner. I will go for a walk outside. And what they did was every month they had a little session where they had stickers and markers and colors to update that plan. Because that's the thing, we're never going to be, the goal is not to be able to avoid overwhelm. The goal, and then you've prepared because you say to your partner, when I send the email that says the text that says SOS, that means I just need to talk to you. And I can talk for 5 minutes. And if you say these things, it'll help ground. So I think that's the next kind of step, to know that like once you figure out this awareness about yourself, that becomes information that can help create that interdependency. And we all love connecting with each other. We all love being able to support and help. And it's just so much easier if somebody's giving you the instructions, like she told him what she needed,
Yeah,
versus everybody just sort of floundering and her knowing what she needed, but not being able to sort of share that in the moment.
yeah.
Wow.
And kudos for him. I mean, it was very touching for him to take on that responsibility early on, and he was interesting, interesting human to be able to really do that kind of outside of the context of the game. So
Yeah. Yeah.
highly recommend that season.
That's so cool. All right, let's talk in these last minute about a few things. We have, I want to say a little plug for our whole Being at Work program. We have just launched this program. It's a new one of our corporate programs. We're just getting so much great feedback. It's got a lot of flexibility, a lot of programs that we're offering. We can get it really set up quickly for folks. So if you're interested and have a team that you're leading, you're ready to move beyond Fitbits and water bottles as your wellness program, we would love to talk about that. I'm going to mention our retreat, which is on the Infinite Center side, that's coming up in October. And so called the Power of Breath Work. We're taking applications for that now. Very excited about how that's shaping up. And then we're going to end this program. You'll make a little plug about another program with the Infinite Center that Jared has created. And then If you guys are interested, we're going to keep talking. It's 1 o'clock now, so Prasada Talks will officially be over shortly. But we're going to keep talking about the Infinite Reset program. So if you want to stick around, we're probably going to talk for about another 20 more minutes. So you're welcome to stay. But we will, so just give a little short plug about the Infinite Center and then we'll declare Prasada Talks over. I mean, the Infinite
So
Reset.
the Infinite Reset. So the short version, it will start in early July. It's a 30-day experience that is going to blend breath work with small group coaching, one-on-one coaching with me. It's really designed for people that are feeling overwhelmed, know that something needs to change, not sure how to do it. And it's really, especially for people that feel like they don't have the time to do something like this, that's the perfect person to join this program. And just in the tools, practices, journeys framework, the end result will be that you come up with your own custom practice so you can have a regular routine to really start building the resilience that we've been talking about today.
Awesome. So if you joined us for Prasada Talks, thank you so much. We're so glad you've been here. Officially closing the Prasada Talks. And then I'm going to just ask you some questions, Jared. I think it's just so fascinating because when I met you, I knew you for a little while before I realized you were an attorney. And I was like, what?
Ah,
Out of all the things and all
that's right. I
the professions
forgot
I
about
could have
that. You didn't
picked,
realize.
I was like, it sort of stumped me because typically you do not find people who are in that profession who have an interest in breathwork, who are coming to breathwork retreats. You were in
Yeah.
the Psychedelics Today program. So what was how did you go from I don't have time, stressed out attorney along the path, and when did that happen?
It took a while, but I'd say one advantage I had is that I really had a mindfulness practice before I was a lawyer, and so that has always been a part of who I am. When I went to law school and then eventually had a legal career, that part of me started to fade in the background because I really fell into that trap of like, oh, I don't have time to continue this.
Mhm.
But I knew it was good for me. I knew it was something that, would help or whatever, but it just felt uh, like it was too much to really continue. So it kind of, like I said earlier, it ebbed and flowed. And um, I went through periods where um, I'd say maybe I was a maybe mid-level associate where I kind of got back into it. I was like super into meditating. And so I would sit for like an hour at a time plus. And I was just like, well, I don't care if I don't have enough time. I'm going to do this for me. But then that does start to like bleed into other aspects of my life. I had a family and like trying to have a career and all this stuff. And so that wasn't really sustainable. So
Mm.
that then fell off again. And then I'd say it's been maybe 7 years ago or so is when I really discovered breath work in particular and kind of stumbled upon it by chance, really. Found a few teachers online that were teaching different things. And what struck me about it was that I could do 5 minutes or 10 minutes of breath work and really immediately feel the effects of it. I'd feel settled. And so I wouldn't have to sit for an hour in meditation to kind of get to the same place. Meditation is a form of breath work. I mean, you're really kind of focusing on your breath, but it is a slow burn form of breath work. And there are all kinds of other tools out there, breathwork tools. So that really opened my eyes to it. And so I immediately, my nature is that when I learned something new that excites me or that I'm interested in, I want to learn how to teach it. And so I became a breathwork coach. I went through a certification program to do that. And yeah, it just has been kind of a part of my daily, weekly practices for a while now. What I do now, I mentioned earlier, I sort of incorporate it with some qigong and movement, which is a little bit more slightly more advanced version of it, I guess. But I just love that kind of really getting into my body and connecting with my nervous system in that way.
So breathwork is already a little mysterious for a lot of people. But when you put breathwork and coach together, can you talk a little bit about like why would I need a breathwork coach? What does a breathwork coach even do?
So, Breathwork Coach teaches different tools using the nomenclature that we've been talking about. Um, and working with a coach can has the advantage of having just a outside resource to give you different things, but also give you feedback. And if you're trying a particular tool and it's just not working for you, there might be reasons for that. It could be technique, maybe you're not getting the technique quite right. But it also could be related to like who you are. And so another aspect of the infinite reset is it will incorporate the Enneagram and like the three centers of intelligence that we were talking about earlier. Um, because there are a variety of personalities out there, and the Enneagram fundamentally is a personality framework. It goes a lot deeper than that, but knowing what your Enneagram type is and your what your personality types is can really inform how you're going to react to overwhelm,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore what tools you might need that are good for you. And so that's where a coach can really be helpful. And so in the Infinite Reset program, it's gonna be this initial cohort. It's gonna be capped out at 10 people, and so we'll have this community aspect to it. We'll all be able to support each other. But everyone in it will get one-on-one time with me, and we'll go through what works for you. Like, what are the tools that are working? We'll talk about your Enneagram type and what that might mean and how you react to burnout and overwhelm and all that kind of thing. And help you build all of that into a practice that makes sense for each individual.
Yeah, I think that's one of the aspects about the program that I think is different. You could go online and say breathwork and find a couple of videos and sort of do those videos. But this aspect of like, we all have different needs. And so, sort of matching up, as you said, sort of the three inner centers of intelligence. What is our core fear that comes up? What is that sort of mind thing that's coming up? And then how is it showing up in our bodies? And then which practice and having that toolbox. So describe a little bit about what will people get by the end of the infinite reset? What's the goal? What are the outcomes?
Yeah, the goal will be, I mean, the takeaway will be a breathwork practice that that person has built, and so it'll mean something for them. It won't just be some random routine that they find online that or whatever, but it's something that we will build together. What's actually working for you? We'll get feedback over the that 30-day period. So by the end, um, you might need a morning routine to like get you going in the day. You might need a nighttime routine because you can't turn off the chatter to like actually get a good night's sleep. Or you might need something for midday, and it's going to depend on the person. So that's the takeaway, I think, of the actual um, like end result. I think from that, things like clarity and confidence and just having a little bit more intention when you show up at work or with your family, and just having a clearer, more clarity, like a clearer path forward, so it won't feel so overwhelming all the time.
Yeah. I'm going to put this link. I forgot to put this in earlier. This is the link for the Stop, Drop, and Breathe for you guys who are still here. Um, and the thing that I was thinking about is like how many years it's taken me of trial and error of like trying this thing and then trying that thing and then combining these things in the morning. And then trying something for a certain number of days and then being like, it's not working. And then getting into something that I felt like was working, but then we get like, oh, it's working. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
That is the
common
big
trap.
trap of like,
Yeah,
oh no, I've totally got it now. I don't need it. And
great.
it's sort of like thinking like you ate 3 meals yesterday, so do you really need to eat again today? And then
Right.
totally having a crash because you were like, yes. So it's this idea that it's like an ongoing and it's building, I love the things that you said, like clarity and connection, but it's building our resilience. It's one of the things in positive psychology that people talk so much about is that it's your capacity to recover quicker. And there's so much talk these days about trauma, and trauma is really when something that has happened to us gets stuck in our system and we clench down and we freeze, and it doesn't have its way to work out. And so the breath is a way that we're allowing that, animals shake and other things, things in nature like shake that off. And so the breath work, I'm with you. I've always done much better with chanting than I have done with meditation. And I really value meditation, but I can do meditation in shorter stints. But a 20-minute chanting practice really is developing that vagal tone and is a form of breath work. And I've experimented with so many different options in the morning. And so coming up, the idea that you could in 30 days create a custom program, you could have saved me many, many years, Jared.
Me too.
Exactly,
Which is
exactly.
why, I mean, in a lot of ways, my motivation for this was like, what would I have wanted 10 years ago? And so that's a lot of the thinking that went into this.
And so,
And
oh, go ahead.
um, no, I just would want to emphasize, I think I said this during the Prasada Talks piece, but um, for anyone that feels like they don't have time for this is exactly the thing that they need because a lot of that um, sense of not having enough time is a result of overwhelm. It's a result of this overwhelm spiral that we're talking about. And so it's one of the stories that your mind is telling you when your body is clenched and you're emotionally out of control or whatever the patterns are for you. So we're going to do 4 Zoom group sessions. We're going to figure out a time that works for once we have the full cohort together. We'll figure out a time that works. I'm guessing like sometime in the evening, but we'll pick a time that kind of works for everyone. And then the one-on-one coaching will be whatever we can schedule together. And by using the tools and building the practice, we can really start to rewrite the stories that are telling us that we don't have enough time. So it's a lot of it is like how we perceive uh, things. So
Absolutely. I'm trying to find the link. Do you have the link for the Infinite Reset that we could just pop in the chat there?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that this idea of not having enough time, I think the thing that I have found is having a practice that helps you build this mental resilience does not mean that things are not still coming at you. But the difference that I've found is I can stay in a using all the parts of my brain to say, no, it's impossible to get these tasks done. I need to ask for help with this, or I need to say no, or I need to say, can this proposal be due on Friday instead of tomorrow? And so it keeps me to where I have my mental capacity to solve the problems and sort of discern versus just going into the overwhelm where I don't have any of that capacity. So it's not that you're not going to still be in the white waters of change, as Marty Seligman likes to call it, but it is that capacity to sort of step over to the bank and say, okay, what's happening and how am I doing this? And like, let me sort of manage this. I don't have to be a victim just swept up in the overwhelm.
Yeah. I put the chat, but it seemed to only go to us. If
Okay.
you copy it, you could
Yeah,
probably
I
send
think
it
I can
to our
copy it.
couple of guests
Um,
here.
so who are the people who you think are best suited for this type of program? Who can it serve?
Um, it can, like I said, I built it as imagining myself 10 years ago. So I personally think it's wonderful for lawyers that are feeling overwhelmed. It's really anyone in any professional, anyone that is just kind of living life. And the way I always used to describe it is like I just feel like I'm being pulled in a million directions. And so I was successful at being a lawyer and I took pride in that. And so I wanted to continue to be successful and kind of show up at work. I have a family and I want to be present for them. I also have personal interests and but just feel like I don't have time to like juggle all of these things. So anyone that has that feeling, this would be perfect for them.
Yeah, it's um and I find right now there's so many enticing maybe it's the app. Maybe I need a new schedule planner. Maybe there's
Yeah.
an AI who's going to solve my overwhelm problem. And so sometimes it's just going back to the simplicity of things that are, I say breathwork is the answer hiding in plain sight. Um and so
Yeah. We all know how to breathe, but sometimes we could use a little guidance on how to breathe in a way that serves us, um, rather than makes things even tighter or feel more overwhelming.
yeah. Did you, if anybody's, it did for Jim and Megan, did you guys have any questions, particularly about this overwhelm spiral, or anything about the infinite reset? We'll keep an eye on the chat there or the Q&A. Um, Jared, any other thoughts as we wrap up? I'm very excited. Oh, one thing I was going to say is that, a lot of our Prasada programs really dive deeply into the concept of, let me see if I can. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you can put it in the Q&A. Thank you, Megan. Um, the concept of tiny habits. And so part of it is how can we build something in, make it easy enough, and get the results. And so it's the trial and error because sometimes we've designed something, but it hasn't worked, but we haven't had the tools to be an architect to actually redesign a habit until it does work. And so that's another part of what we're going to be empowering people with. It's sort of teaching people how to fish versus just giving them the fish. So
Right.
all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Jim, for being here. Thank you for being supportive of the Prasada community. And we will stay in touch. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Jared, for your wisdom and guidance. And it's going to be a great, Infinite Reset's going to be a great program. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Be well. State of mind.